It's always fun to look at these teams that have never won a Stanley Cup and say, "Hey, which one's going to be next?" And when I said, "Well, it won't be Washington," it was Washington. So we got 12 teams on the board this year. Does one more of them come off this year? Well, if I'm going to rank them in order of who I think is most likely, let's start with the least likely. Short term, least likely is Ottawa. So I'll put Ottawa down here right now. Actually, I'll make sure that they're visible completely on the board. So I'll have Ottawa down here. Just there's been so much tire fire behavior from a tire fire organization that I don't know that I can see Ottawa legitimately winning a Stanley Cup anytime soon. Um, Next up, at 11, I would have the Arizona Coyotes. Um, oh, look at that. Vancouver fell right off the board. Insert joke here. Yeah, Arizona. Uh, they'd have to make the playoffs and win a round first. You know what? Arizona's got to go to 12. Arizona has to go to 12. I have to put Ottawa ahead of Arizona because this is what's going to make my brain break here. Usually I just throw them all off the board. Number 11. Well, okay, Vancouver. I'll put you back on the board at number 10. Sorry, number 10. Vancouver. Um, Vancouver's chances of winning a Stanley Cup are very remote. And I am well aware of Pedersen and what he means and what Demko could mean and Quinn Hughes and all these pieces. But till I see a team put together, I have the Canucks at 10. Remember, I said Washington wouldn't, and then they did. Number 9, I'll throw Florida in at 9 because they're Florida. They haven't won a round in a long time. Looking back to, I think it was 96 the last time they won a round. It's yeah, it's hard for me to picture the Florida Panthers winning a Stanley Cup either. In fact, having any of the four of these teams in talks for Stanley Cup, it's just weird. Number 8. This is where it actually does get kind of difficult for me. Um, you know what? I'll throw Buffalo on at 8 because I'm aware that the team's on an upswing and I'm aware that they've been down rebuilding for a long time, but I yeah, they're right with Vancouver in terms of yeah, they can make to the odd Stanley Cup final here and there, but could we see them actually win it? Hey, I would love to see a brand new team win it again, but I definitely I'll throw them at 8. St. Louis barely ahead of them at 7. St. Louis, it's hard to fashion a Stanley Cup out of that organization right now. Um, it's a tough list because it's so often a team that's won it before that wins it again, right? So trying to figure out and grade which ones are least likely to ever win one is tough, or at the very least, which one's in the best position right now for me to say, oh yeah, no, they'll get there. Number 6, Minnesota. Um, we've talked a lot this year about how it's an older team, and of course, we've watched Alex Tuch go on to great success with Minnesota. In hindsight, they probably would have preferred to keep him and get rid of Nino Niederreiter, but hindsight's 2020, so you just leave that as it is. But they are a team that I look at and I say, I don't know if they're going to win a Stanley Cup. I don't know that I can see that happening. Which leaves us with the 5 that I think, yeah, I could see them winning a Stanley Cup. Which is Winnipeg, Columbus, Vegas, San Jose, and Nashville. At 5, Columbus. Because of the Bobrovsky Panarin situation, and then you look at the fact that Bobrovsky is probably going to be done with them this year. They either kind of have to win it this year, or what do you do next year? What's the plan for next year? That's my concern when it comes to Columbus. At 4, they're all Western teams at this point, all of them. West, 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 West is pretty. 4, 5, 6, 8 out of the 12 are Western teams. So I guess it shouldn't surprise me that I'm left with 4 Western teams, right? Winning 4 rounds is difficult. And it comes down to me trying to figure out which one of the four I think is least likely as currently set up to win it. I will put Vegas at number 4. I am well aware that there's going to be Vegas fans that aren't happy at being number 4. But, again, do I see them going through another 4 rounds and winning a Stanley Cup this year? Not really. But I didn't see them going to the Stanley Cup last year either. First round, I thought they were going to lose to the Kings. But I did pick them to win rounds 2 and 3. So, I was wrong 33% of the time with them. Because I think I picked Washington to win a Stanley Cup. I'm trying to remember if it was Washington or Vegas. I know my brain kind of melted down when they were up against each other in the Stanley Cup final. And I don't go back and rewatch all my old videos or anything. There's not like I sit down with popcorn. I got to watch what I talked about. Number 3. Yeah, I'll have Winnipeg there. I have some concerns with Winnipeg about a long playoff journey. And yeah, I mean, I still have them third most likely to break through and win a Stanley Cup. But it's tough, isn't it? Because we can look at this board and we can say, there are ways we could see Columbus winning one. Maybe Minnesota, that's kind of a stretch. And then down here is kind of probably not. So it's between San Jose and Nashville. And honestly, with the way these teams are trending, I like San Jose's chances. And I have to say this. If the San Jose Sharks can figure out a way to keep Erik Karlsson, sign him long term, and if the Sharks can get the best out of Martin Jones over playoffs, I'm talking the whole 4 series, San Jose could be the Stanley Cup champions in June. That being said, it is a long ways between here and June. It may not feel like it. Well, it kind of feels like it in some parts of Canada. Thankfully, we aren't getting the cold weather that the rest of Canada is getting. We're getting some rain, and it's nice and warm out. Been able to go outside without a jacket a bit in the last month. It actually hasn't been that bad. But back to the whole Stanley Cup thing. I think for Nashville, I think it has to be this year. And the funny thing is, in a matchup between these two teams in the playoffs, I would probably pick Winnipeg to knock out Nashville. But if we're talking about which one's most likely to win a Stanley Cup, I like Nashville's chances a little bit better than Winnipeg. So the next team to come off the board, I think it would be San Jose. So if there's a team that in June is going to come off the board and next year we're going to have 11 teams to talk about, I say San Jose. And for people who say, well, Ottawa's already got Stanley Cups, so does Vancouver. Technically, so does Seattle. So if I have to pull Ottawa off, I have to pull Vancouver off too, because the Millionaires won a Stanley Cup. So there's that. Anyways, it's kind of a fun thing to look at and talk about. So let me know, which one of these 12 teams do you think is next off the board? Which team do you think is the next one that's going to win a Stanley Cup, and why? So let me know that in the comment section below. Do not forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.